Welcome to Yogaru Online and welcome to my Restorative Sleepy Flow workshop. So what we're going to be going through today is one of my most recent articles on my website. So this is the sequence called Restorative Sleepy Flow. So I'm going to be taking you through that over the course of the next about hour and a quarter, hour and a half. So restorative is, to me, it's like a big hug. It really is. It's sometimes you don't realize that you need it until you try it. And it supports me through all different, kind of different physical and mental requirements. And I just feel like I'm really passionate about the strength of restorative for the amount of benefits it can give you and to your nervous system as well. So if you think of restorative as a kind of a balancing of your energy bank. So we're very good at taking energy away, but we're not quite as good as putting the energy back in again. So with restorative, where it's almost like to the power of 10. And it's even said that restorative is more powerful than sleep itself. Now, of course, we need sleep, but with restorative, we are consciously relaxing. So we're kind of tapping quite purposely into that parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and restore. So we are kind of getting to it faster than we would in sleep, because with sleep, we are going through waves of dreams and activity. And sometimes you might wake up and you're like, oh, I feel like I've ran a marathon. Your muscles can still be twitching as you sleep. But in restorative, we're very purposely staying awake and we are kind of scanning through our body and helping everything to relax by just literally sending mental signals down. So it's as simple as if you're lying there, you're scanning to check for areas that, if you've got habitual areas that you hold tension in your jaw, your shoulders, your hips, you send signals down to there and you're kind of just asking them to soften and asking them to relax and asking them to accept the prop or accept the soft surface that is gently holding them up. I always think of it as like cradling a baby. It's like very gently holding. So with that note, you really want your props. What I have is sitting in a bolster. I have 2 bricks and I have 4 blankets there, but you probably get away with maybe 2 or 3. So my props really are going to kind of fill the space between me and the ground as much as possible. In our restorative practice, we're looking for gentle opening. We're not really looking for strong kind of stretches, because stretching is for our other type of yoga, our standing practice, where we are working more actively into the muscles. This one, we're really trying to soften through our practice and tell the nervous system, you are safe, you can down regulate here, I've got you. And we're building pathways in the nervous system and in the brain so that we learn ourselves how to tap into that rest mode a little bit faster and a little bit more readily when we need it. So the end of the day, or even during the day, if you're going through a stressful period, you just find your breath, you find this pathway, and you know how to gently bring yourself down, grounding yourself down again. The nervous system, it's never quite as simple as on off. It's kind of, it's doing a bit more of a swimming or paddling from one to the other. It kind of swaps from one to the other, and we want to teach it to swap nice and smoothly rather than reactively. We want to be able to control the swaps from one to the other a little bit more purposely. Okay, so anything else? Yeah, make sure now with this practice, this is very much socks and layers practice. Make sure you stay really warm, because again, when you're working with the nervous system, you absolutely, as a priority, have to be comfortable, because your nervous system isn't going to start down regulating if you are uncomfortable. And that is the #1 aim of our practice, is to get the nervous system to kind of down regulate. Okay, so I think we'll get started. So this flow starts with a little bit of movement. So maybe just easing out a little bit of your, whatever the rest of your day has been like before we come down into our seated practice, our lying down practice. So yeah, I will be practicing with you, but I am your timekeeper. So don't you worry about coming in and out of things. One thing to note on that is sometimes I find when I'm doing restorative practices from online myself, if it goes really quiet, I kind of, I'm lying there thinking, have I lost the connection or something? Just maybe try and trust your internet connection, because you won't fully relax, and I will be guiding you a lot more. So you'll notice at the start of the practice I help you a bit more. I'm guiding the breath, I'm guiding you into the body down to relax, but then towards the end of the practice I leave a bit more space for you to just totally relax without me constantly chatting at you. And try to just trust that I am still there. I am still minding you. I'm still your timekeeper. And sure, if you have lost internet connection, not the end of the world. If you are there a little bit longer, you'll feel even better. Okay, so let's get moving. Just coming on to all fours there, we'll take a few rounds of cat-cow and a few circles through the arms there as we ease out through the rest. Ease out any little bits of tension through our day. Okay, so arms underneath our wrists, stacked under shoulders, knees stacked under hips. So let's inhale, the belly softens towards the ground, the gaze comes slightly forward, and then exhale, gently lift the spine up towards the ceiling. Again, you might be practicing that this at the start or the end of your day, but just it is the start of your practice. So go gently from one to the other. Inhale, belly softens towards the ground, and then exhale, lifting the spine up towards the ceiling. And we'll do two more of them. Inhale, the belly softens towards the ground. Maybe this time you press your hands into the ground and draw them towards your knees. Nice smile through the collarbones there, and then press into your hands. Exhale, lift the spine up towards the ceiling, press into the hands and draw them away from your knees. Feel your shoulder blades spread across your back there. Okay, and then back to all fours again then. And then we're just going to do arm circles here. So we're going to inhale, you're going to do your right arm. I'm going to do my left so that you can see me. Inhale, reach the right arm up towards the ceiling. And then exhale, just circle the arm back towards the back of your mat. Bring the hips down towards your heels. And then circle it forward. So exhale and inhale to lift it up. Exhale to sweep it back. Inhale to lift it up. Exhale to sweep back. So maybe coming into a little twist to the side as it reaches up towards the ceiling and then comes down on your exhale. And then we'll swap to the other side now. So inhale, reach your left arm up, and then exhale, sweep the arm back towards the back of the mat, hips to heels. Inhale, sweep the arm forward and up, and exhale, sweep the arm back. One more time. Inhale, sweep the arm up, and then exhale, sweep it back. Okay, let's come on to our backs now. And we're just going to do some circles through the wrists, hips, ankles, and legs. So starting with the wrists, knees bent, feet planted into the ground there. Just reach the arms up towards the ceiling and circle the wrists. Let's just go one direction, few circles, and then twisting the other direction or circles the other direction. And then we will twist our hips. So hold on to your knees there. I find it nice just to cup left hand on left knee, cup right hand on right knee, and then drawing circles on the ceilings in one direction with the knees. And then circling around the other direction. So feel that lovely massage on the back of your spine there, or the back of your pelvis. And then hug your left knee into your chest there gently and reach the right leg up towards the ceiling. Circle the ankle. Okay, so just the toes are circling here. The leg is staying where it is, going one direction. And then going the opposite direction. And then hug right knee in. Reach left leg up towards the ceiling. Circle. Nice, purposeful wide circles, and then circling the other direction. And then hug onto the left knee again there. And then, actually let that left leg come down to the ground. Hold on to it with the left hand there, just to keep that left hip in space. Right hand to right knee there, and then just circling through the hip there. So you're making circles on the ceiling with that right knee there. So it's like we're stirring the hip bone in the socket there, going one direction, and then flipping the other direction. And then lengthening the right leg out. Place that right hand on the right hip there. Cup left hand in left knee there, and circling through the left hip. So stirring that hip bone in its socket there, and controlling it with the arm, strength of the arm there. And going the other direction. Okay, and then lengthen the legs out on the mat there. Point the toes away from you, and then reach the arms overhead. Now they might or they might not reach the floor, but we're not going to stay here, so that's okay. This is going to be your inhale, and then exhale, draw the knees in towards the chest, and then just hug onto them with your arms. Let's keep moving. So inhale, gently reach the legs away, and then exhale, draw them in towards the chest and hold on to them with your knees or with your hands. One more, inhale, lengthen the legs away. And then exhale, draw the knees in towards the chest, hold on to them with your hands. Bring the feet down onto the ground there with the knees bent. Next one, we're just going to lift the hips up. So coming in and out of bridge, tuck those arms in kind of nice and tightly in against your body there. Spread the fingertips nice and wide, palms down onto the mat there. On your inhale, you're going to lift the hips off the mat, press into your feet, big toe mound, little toe mound, center the back of the heel. And then exhale, bring the hips down nice and slowly. Feel the spine coming down onto the mat, vertebrae by vertebrae. Inhale, gently lifting the hips off the mat and the spine. And then exhale, peeling yourself back down, vertebrae by vertebrae. We'll do one more of them. Inhale to lift the hips and spine up. Press into the feet. And then exhale to come back down again. Now we're going to kind of semi-combine those two by just, on our inhale, we're going to lift the hips up and then reach the arms overhead again as well. And then exhale, bring the arms down and the hips down. We'll do two more of them. Inhale, reach the arms overhead, lift the hips. And exhale, bring the arms down, bring the hips down. One more time. Inhale, lift the arms overhead. And exhale, bring the arms back down again. And bring the hips down. Bring the arms into cactus position for our last little movement bite. Arms into cactus position if that suits your shoulders. If there's any tension gathering in the shoulder there, or the shoulders are lifted off the ground, just bring the arms into T-shape with the palms down, or the arms a little bit closer towards the body. Okay, so, again, we're trying to find complete comfort as we move towards the restorative part of our practice. Just let the knees drop to your left-hand side. Bring them back up to center, and then let the knees drop to your right-hand side. Back up to center. Let's add the breath. Exhale to your left-hand side. Inhale up to center. And exhale to your right-hand side. Inhale up to center. And exhale to your left-hand side. One more time. Inhale up to center. And exhale to your right-hand side. Follow it over with your left arm. Press into your arm to bring you up to a seated position. So let's get ready for our first restorative pose. So all you need for this one, nice and simple, is a blanket. So again, everyone's blankets are going to be very different sizes. So I'm going to hold the blanket up so you can kind of see the general size, because I can say to you, this is folded 4 times, but if you have like a proper Iyengar blanket or just any blanket, it might be bigger than this. So this is a 4 fold, and I'm going to fold it over again. So you end up with a roll or a blanket fold about that size there. Okay, and then I'm going to lay that out along the head end of my blanket. I'm going to roll up the bottom end of it. I don't want to roll it up too much because we're going to come into a kind of a back bend or a very gentle kind of chest opening over that. So you'll notice very soon if you've taken your rolled blanket too tight or too high. And just try and squish it down so it stays there. Great. And then come to lying down on your blanket, and where you want that, so the head is going to rest on this part of the blanket, and your shoulder blades are going to sit on top of the bit of roll that you've made there. And the way I know that I'm in the right position, for me, it's kind of about 2 fingers distance between my armpit and the start of the roll there. And then you'll very quickly feel that sense of lovely opening through the front of the ribs there. Okay, and we're on a narrow blanket roll just to help the shoulders drop down either side of the blanket there. 2 options for the legs. You can have your feet hip distance apart and the knees knocked in together, because again, we're trying to get energy efficient here, like the rest of the world. Or you can lengthen the legs out. So it just depends how it feels on your lower back there. And again, 2 different positions for your arms. If cactus suits your shoulders, it's nice and you get a lovely chest opening with cactus arms. And if that's not doing it for your shoulders, you can bring your arms into T shape or just down like at kind of like a 45 degrees between your arms there and your legs or your hips there. Okay, so adjust your practice, your body, and it should very quickly tell you what it needs from its restorative practice. So a lovely first pose to take to help us to find the breath. And the breath is our anchor for our practice that keeps bringing us back to the idea of softening the nervous system and down-regulating the nervous system. And often when the mind is going through periods of busyness and that kind of mind chatter that goes on the minute you try and lie down and relax, bring yourself back to your breath as a single point of focus to kind of block out the chatter and the busyness of the mind. And what it also will do will ensure that you are actually breathing, because a lot of the time we're inclined to hold our breath or do funny old things with our breath. So consciously breathing will help us to slow the breath down. And again, the breath is invaluable when we're talking about tapping into the rest and restore part of the nervous system. And with that blanket roll underneath the shoulders there, the shoulder blades, you can really feel the sense of your breath expanding there as you feel the ribs lifting up away from the floor on your inhale and gently dropping down again on your exhale. Feel the expansion through your chest of all that oxygen, which will be rushed through your whole body by your circulation and your heart, feeding your body with exactly what it needs. So see, can you even feel a sense of, and you might not be able to, that's completely fine, but can you feel a sense of that expansion of the breath actually going all the way down to the tips of your toes and all the way to the tips of your fingers, and then all the way up to the tip of your crown too, feeding the brain and the nervous system. And see, can you start to feel a sense of arriving, arriving into your restorative practice now with the breath. And if you've practiced restorative before, I always find that at this point, I feel a sense of familiar, a sense of trust, a sense of I know where this is going and I like it and I know that it's good for me. And if it's the first time you've ever done restorative, it might feel a little bit different. It might feel that it's still a little bit of a leap of faith, but just let go of that judgment and let your body, trust your body. It knows what it wants and it wants balance. It wants the organs to be functional. It wants the nervous system to work hard to find balance again. Now let's do another little body check, make sure everything is still happy. So if you have your arms in cactus position, is that still okay with your shoulders? Or do you need to go to T-shape now? Is the back with your lower spine there, your lumbar, is that still okay? Or do you need to bend your knees up and knock your knees in together? So just keep checking in with your unique body and your unique experience of these shapes that I'm suggesting you take. And whilst I'm your guide, you are very much the boss of this. Okay, let's gently get ready to move to our next pose now. So just roll over to your side there. Bend the knees up first, roll over to your side. And really slowly. So coming out of your poses nice and slowly here. Let's keep it really gentle. Coming out of that pose and we move on to our next pose. Next pose, nice and simple. So just get your blanket out of the way there, but let's actually just fold it up into a four-fold again there, just so that it's ready for the next time we need it. So pop that out of the way. Grab your bolster. We're going to do a little bit of an inversion here, really great for the lymphatic system. So pop the bolster underneath your knees there and come down onto your back. Lift the hips up like we had done before, and then just pop the bolster underneath the pelvis there. Again, the arms can be in cactus position here, or the arms can be in T shape, or the arms can be draped over the bolster, can be quite nice as well. And it almost feels like you're getting a little inversion in the hands there as well. So plant the feet into the ground and maybe even just, I mean, you might have socks on, but if you don't have socks on, press your feet into the ground there. Use the sticky mat so that it kind of works as brakes. And you can knock the knees in or you can have them hip distance. Sometimes knees knocked in can feel a little uncomfortable on your lower back there. So just work out what suits you there, either hips or knees hip distance or knees knocked in together there. And your hips lifted up on your bolster. Now come back to the breath again and feel that sense of a different sensation to your breath here now. And that's because we're kind of working a little bit with gravity here. So there is a sense that, like with an inversion, we're quite malleable internally. So there is a little bit of a push up from the lower part of our body up into the lungs. So it might feel a little bit kind of harder to find a deep breath here as the digestive system presses on the base of the diaphragm there, and maybe there's a little less room to take a deep breath here. But again, these are all things that are very good for the systems of the body to kind of move them around and challenge them. And then when we come upright again, there's a sense of expansion through the breath. It's like twists when we come in and out of them. We're working with massaging all those little parts of the respiratory system. And then while we're here, let's open up the hips. So keep the left leg bent there and just start to gently slide that right leg down towards the end of your mat there until you feel a nice opening to the front of that right hip there. Let's take a few breaths here. It's lovely to just open up through the front of the hips. We spend a lot of time these days sitting, and the front of our hips get quite shortened. So this is kind of counterposing sitting. And then slide that right foot back. And then lengthen the left leg out. Keep that right leg bent. Slide the left foot away until you feel a lovely sense of the skin stretching over that left hip bone there. And the front of that left hip gently opening. And then slide that back in again. And we'll just stay here for another few breaths. And then let's do another scan and just feel the sensations through the body. Can you feel a slight pressure or a bit of a buzz to the veins and all the little capillaries in your head, because we're flooding it a little bit with oxygen there. So we're giving it a little bit of a boost in this inversion. And inversion is any pose where the head is gently raised above, or no, the heart is gently raised above the head. Having said that, legs up the wall, so just literally lying on the ground with legs up the wall, works as a fabulous inversion too. And strictly speaking, the head is not lower than the heart, let's put it that way. But we're still getting great reverse with blood flow to the legs. Okay, we'll gently get ready to move on to our next pose. So press your feet into the ground, just enough to lift the hips up, to slip the bolster out to the side, and come down nice and slowly now. It almost feels like the hips are going beneath the surface of the earth here, because our body gets kind of a little bit used to being up at a height there. So come down nice and slowly. Let's lengthen our right leg out and bend it up again. Lengthen the left leg out and bend it up again. And then rolling over to your side and gently coming up to a seated position. And let's get ready for our next pose. So we're going to take a reclined seated pose. We're going to use lots of our props for this one. So if you have a little look up towards me, we'll take a lowish one because this is our restorative sleepy flow. So we're trying to kind of bring ourselves down to the ground. I'm going to have the brick furthest away from me on its medium height there, and the next brick on its lowest height. And then we're just going to put the bolster over them So pop your bolster over then. And then I'm going to give you a few different options of blankets, again, just depending on how many blankets you have. So sometimes, and it just depends on your posture or your neck or your shoulders. Sometimes it can feel nice to have a blanket at the back of your bolster there when you lie down. So if you lie down and you find, again, day to day I change, that feels quite nice for me today. Sometimes you find if your chin is jutting up a little bit too much, it's nice to prop the head up with the blanket there on the back of your bolster. Okay, so that's option number one. Another option is you get a blanket and then move to the side and just have it on kind of, you don't need to be too fussy about the side of it, and just roll it up. So just make a blanket roll. Doesn't need to be that wide. I've got that kind of a wide thing. And you can pop that underneath your knees. It just can be, it gives a little bit of relief to your lower spine there when you're lying back, to have a little bend in the knees there. Okay, so when we're coming down, and then have your other blankets nearby, we're just going to pop them over our belly, or you might, it depends if you have socks on, you might put some on your feet, but I find a little blanket weight is lovely on my belly. Okay, so we're going to come down. Make sure that you have a couple of inches space between the back of your hips and the bolster there, so that you don't overarch your back trying to come on top of the bolster. Now, my bolster is quite a firm one, so I definitely need to make sure I do that. You don't need to be as fussy about that if you have kind of a softer or a flatter bolster. So gently coming to lie back. And again, everything with real purposefulness. So we want to really come down on our bolster there, vertebrae by vertebrae, making sure that everything feels quite symmetrical and supported there. So we're not sliding over one side of the bolster. Those shoulder blades are draping down the ridge of the bolster there. I've got my head supported with my blanket there. And then I'm going to pop my two other folded blankets or whatever, and any amount of spare ones you have there, on top of my belly there. And then arms down either side of the body with the palms facing up. It's nice. And that also just helps to roll the shoulders back. So even maybe bring the palms facing down, see how that feels. And then palms facing up, and see the way it helps those shoulder blades slide down either side of the bolster there and opens through the chest. So let's come back to our breath again. And remembering our first restorative pose where we had the blanket roll behind the shoulder blades there, and we had that lovely expansion through the front of the ribs. See, can you find that again in this a little bit more restful chest opener? But still feeling the ribs expand on your inhale, and then gently contracting on your exhale. Now I'm going to do a little head scan here for you, and you can follow me with this. Or if you're really enjoying this, then you can just zone out and stick with your breath, or, kind of just find your own little peaceful moment. And for those of you that like a head scan, let's bring our attention to our eye sockets there. And let your eyes be soft, and let them sink back into the sockets. Let the skin across your forehead be soft as silk, draping down either side of your head. Space between the temples wide. Right cheekbone, left cheekbone, softening, releasing. Right jaw, left jaw, releasing. Mouth ever so slightly, not quite open, but just like softened, and maybe the tongue is pressing into the soft palate at the top of your mouth there. Just a kind of gentle way for, letting the jaw be slack and relaxed, but at the same time containing it slightly so that we're breathing through the nose and not the mouth. And let's just scan through that again now. So we'll start now with the jaw, cheekbones, eye sockets, third eye, forehead, top of the crown, back of the head, jaw, cheekbones, eye sockets, third eye, forehead, top of the crown, back of the head, and back to the jaw. Your whole expression, all those little muscles of your face, softening and releasing. And then just noticing almost like waves of relaxation that the rest of your body follows this good example. And can you let the fingertips curl, the feet drop out to the side? Let your body be held by your props underneath you. And can you feel a sense of the breath softening now? Getting quieter and gentler. Let your bones be heavy now as the muscles gently release. And feel gravity gently pressing you down into the support of your bolsters. Just take a few more breaths here before we move on to our next pose. And when you're ready, gently pressing the hands into the ground just to lift yourself up off your bolster. Again, challenge yourself to move as slowly as you can. Pop those blankets out to the side that were on your belly. Remove your blanket roll and maybe just fold that blanket up again so that it's ready. And then for our next one, actually, we're pretty much set up. We are just going to remove the bricks from underneath the bolster there. So pop the bricks out to the side. I'm going to come on to my, let's see, my right hip. Okay. So I have my right hip up against the bolster there now. Let's give you some options for the knees. So we're going to come into a twisted pose over the bolster. I'm going to bring my fingers either side of the bolster and we're going to come to lying down. Before we do that, let's sort the legs out. So let's give you a couple of different options for the legs. So actually one that I came across recently, which I thought was lovely. So get your blanket, kind of this type of a size here, and then have it ready, kind of folded in two. And we're going to make a little leg sandwich. So you're going to pop your lower leg inside the rolled or the folded blanket there, and then put the blanket on top of that leg, and then pop the next leg on top of it. Now, what would be even nicer is if you have another blanket, you can make it a triple layer, double-decker sandwich, and you can pop another blanket on top of you there. Okay, so that's the legs sorted. I'm going to place the arms either side or the hands either side of the bolster there. Again, you want that, one or a couple of inches there between you and your bolster. Hands either side of the bolster. Inhale, lengthen through the whole spine, and then exhale, again, coming down nice and gently, particularly for the women who want to make sure that we're coming down the center of the bolster there and that the flesh of the breasts are either side of the spine of the bolster there. And then you're going to come down onto your right cheek. I'm going to stay up on my chin there just to make sure I'm not blocking out the earphones. So we're coming into a gentle twist here. So ways to adjust this just before you relax into it. And if you're somebody who finds twists quite uncomfortable or you can't quite get yourself over the bolster there, if you're in it, that's fine, you stay there. If you're not finding comfort in this, the way to take your spine incrementally out of the twist a little bit is to pop something underneath that right hip there. So if you think about it, if I pop a blanket under the right hip, I've taken a little bit of the twist out of the pose. So pop a blanket underneath the hips there. And indeed, if you're on a hard floor or you're not, if your mat isn't that soft, you can also sit on a blanket here to make it a bit more comfortable on that bottom hip. Now walk the elbows out a little bit so that those shoulders aren't up around your ears there. So let the shoulders soften away from the ears. Again, coming back to the breath. Kind of a little bit like our inversion. Can you feel a sense of a challenge to find a big breath here? And that's, again, it's where we're finding the benefits. We're challenging the breath and we're challenging the tissues of the lungs here in our twist. And see, can you feel the breath expand a little bit more through that left lung there? Gently get ready to come to the second side now. So just press the hands into the ground either side if you come up nice and slowly. I'm going to flip my bolster to the other side, but you stay, leave it where it is. I'm just making sure that I don't have my back to you. And then you're just going to twist your legs over to the other side now, so that you're now on your left hip. And then we're going to make our little leg sandwich there again. So the bottom part of that blanket's underneath my left leg there. And then I'm going to pop the top part in between the legs. Put the right leg on top of the left leg. And then if you have another spare blanket, do our double decker sandwich and pop it on top of that right leg there. Bring the left hip now, a few inches away from the bolster there. Hands either side of the bolster. Inhale, lengthen through the spine. And then exhale, placing yourself down vertebrae by vertebrae. Flesh of the chest there coming down either side of the bolster. And you're going to come onto your left cheek now. I'm going to stay up on my chin. And then walking the elbows out a little bit, just to make sure those shoulders aren't up around the ears. Now, can you feel the breath a little bit more intensely in the right lung now? Can you feel the gentle tug on the skin around the waist as you twist the whole body to the right? Let's do another body scan now. Make sure that everything is happy, everything is where it needs to be to find complete comfort. And this gentle twist. Gently getting ready now to come out of this pose into our next one. Press your hands into the ground, either side of you. Gently lift yourself up. And then pop your blankets out of the way. So our next pose, you're going to leave your bolster there. Have your bricks nearby to you because, again, I'm going to give you lots of different options for this one. We're going to come into supported child's pose. And, with child's pose isn't, I mean, it's a resting pose, but not for everyone. So I want to make sure that I give you variations on it. So one option is to bring the bolster up higher so that it's closer to you if you find that coming down far is too much of a stretch on the back of your glutes there. So that's option number one. Again, you can pop both bricks underneath to bring it up higher, which is nice. If you are not finding comfort in the hips around the sitting on your heels there, you can sit on a brick. You can have it on its mid height or its lower height there. You can sit on, or you can even pop a blanket and a brick underneath the hips there. That can be nice. Again, if you're just finding that the hips are hovering too much when you're coming into your pose. So this is looking good for me. I've got a brick underneath my bolster, so I'm bringing the bolster up closer to me now. Again, you'll be lying on a cheek, but I just don't want to knock my earphones out of the way. And then I've got a brick underneath my hips, and then I've got a blanket underneath that. Okay, so that's one option. One more little one to give you, because I know some people find that this can be quite uncomfortable on the front of the feet there. So if this is you and you can see there, if you find it's very uncomfortable at the front of the foot there, what we need to do is try and create a little bit of support so that the foot is not fully flexed there or fully extended there. So what you're going to do is you're going to get your blanket and just have it in that kind of a size there, and roll it up 2 or 3 rolls, pop it underneath your feet there so that it creates a little lift to the front of your feet there, so that it's not quite so flat on the ground there. Okay, so that doesn't suit me, but that is definitely a nice way to support the front of the foot there if that's uncomfortable for you. The version I'm going to take is sitting on the blanket, or not sitting on the blanket, sitting on the brick, and then popping the blanket underneath that. And then I'm going to bring the bolster up towards me. And again, you're going to lie on either cheek, left or right, and halfway through the pose, I'm going to get you to pop to the other cheek. So just pick a side there. And same as we did the last time, and make sure that you just walk the elbows out a little bit and let the shoulders soften away from your ears. So you can either kind of hug your knees in against the bolster there, if that feels good for you. Or if you want to take it into a slightly wider version, almost like a frog version, if you want to get a little bit of an opening to the inner groin there. So, play around with the distance of your knees to your bolster there. Okay, now definitely scan through this pose and make sure that you are happy in it. So decide, do you need another bolster or another blanket underneath your hips? Do you need something underneath your knees there? Make sure that it's a very comfortable supported child's pose for you. Feel a gentle opening now to your lower back there and the back of your hips. So those muscles that we spend a lot of time sitting on, just feel the gentle bit of the stretch across the skin of your buttocks. Now swap to the other cheek. Make sure that we have equaled the neck out. So swap to the other side. And let the shoulders drop down now either side of the bolster. Whereas when we were lying on the bolster, we were feeling the shoulders drop one direction, and this time we're kind of letting the shoulder blades spread across our back here like wings. You're gently getting ready to come up, so press into your hands there to lift yourself up. Pop the bolster out of the way there to the side, and your blankets out to the side, and your bricks. So let's just clear the mat for a second. Now our next pose we're going to come into is mountain brook. So we're going to pop the bolster towards the end of your mat there, and we're going to get 2 blankets. And the first blanket we're going to create a neck roll. Okay, so now we don't want the roll to be too wide. We're literally just filling the space between the back of our neck and the mat there. So have your blanket in kind of a 4-fold, this kind of a wider size, and then pop it at the top of your mat there where your head is, and just roll it up once or twice, okay? And then have it far enough away so that your head is going to rest on the blanket and the roll is going to be underneath the curve at the back of your neck there. And then we're going to get another blanket. Again, open it out. We're going to put this underneath our scapula, our shoulder blades there again, but we don't want it too high. So we're just going to open it out and then take it into a 3-fold, an accordion fold. So just folding it 3 times. So it's quite flat there. And then I'm going to pop that along kind of just, about a hand's width away from my neck roll there. Okay, so mountain brook. So it's like we're kind of draping over our props, like water flowing over the rocks in a brook, a mountain brook. Okay, so come down to sit and then drape your legs over your bolster. If you have spare blankets, you can pop one over your feet. And then if you have your 4th one, we're going to pop that on our belly. Okay, so adjust the legs so that you come down. Again, we're looking for that spot where the shoulder blades are supported by that folded blanket this time. Again, I'm judging it by the 2 fingers width between my armpit and the edge of the folded blanket there. And then I know that my shoulder blades are nestled on that. And then I'm going to bring the blanket roll underneath the back of my neck there. And it's nicely filling the space between the back of my neck and the floor. It's not lifting my cervical spine at all. It's just filling it up. So actually, while we're here, we'll do one of my favorite things. Let's pop that. If you have your final blanket, let's use that as a weighted blanket. So fold it up nice and chunky and place it across your belly there. And then while we have the neck roll underneath there, let's turn it into a head wrap. So bring your hands to either side of the edges, beside your ears there, and tuck the blanket under. I'm not going to tuck it too much because I'll knock my earphones out. So I'm tucking it under or rolling it under there. I'm making a little cocoon for my head. And then I'm going to continue around, reach my arms overhead. And I'll take the furthest part of the blanket and roll it under, roll it under, roll it under until I hit my head. And I'm just tucking everything in around my head, like I'm making a little cocoon around my skull there. This feels lovely and supportive. And this lovely sense of cocooning ourselves with our props. So we have our head wrap. We've that gentle little bit of an opening to the front of the chest there. Blanket across our belly, so that nice bit of weighted blanket, telling those little sensors on our skin, I am safe, I am held. Bolster under the knees, just gently a little bit kind to the lower back there to lift the knees up. And then if you have that spare blanket, you have it draped across your feet. Palms up. Let's start to settle down now into our mountain brook, our final pose before our Shavasana. To feel the waves of relaxation through your whole body now. Can you feel your nervous system just ticking along there smoothly? Resting and restoring. Facilitating regeneration and replenishment for the whole body. And can you notice where in the kind of mid part of our practice we were feeling ourselves being pressed down by gravity and the body being heavy? Can you feel a sense of lightness now to our body? A sense of such harmony that it's just so smoothly sitting on the props there. And almost like a tiny little wafer of space in between where the body hits the prop. The skin again across the forehead, soft as silk, and the skin draping across your cheekbones. Feel your skin breathing in the air on the exposed skin, and feel the sense of security and safety on the skin that is covered by fabric. So get ready now to come into Shavasana. So for your Shavasana, you can keep your head in your head wrap, but just see, can you press into your head and lift your back up just enough to pull that folded blanket out from underneath your shoulder blades there and bring yourself down onto the ground. You can leave the blanket over your belly there. That would be nice. You can leave the blanket over your feet. Now you can decide if you'd like to take your Shavasana with the bolster underneath the knees. That's absolutely fine. Or you can just kick the bolster out of the way if you'd rather come flatter down towards the ground with the knees for your final pose, your Shavasana. Okay, so now that we've moved that blanket out of the way, feel the natural curve of your spine there. Feel the lovely symmetry of Shavasana. And feel the lovely calm that you have created for yourself. Feel a sense of replenishment to your energy stores, replenishment to the energy bank. So bring a little bit of movement now into your fingertips and your toes. Maybe if you have that bolster underneath the knees there, you can kick that out to the side. Maybe pop the blankets out to the side. And come to lie down again. Take a deep breath here. And really, really gently just rolling over to your side. Press into your hand. And coming up to a seated position, it's nice to, maybe if you have your bolster there, straddling the bolster can be nice. Or pop a brick underneath your hips there just to come to a seated position. And some prayer position. Comes to your third eye, to your lips, to your heart center. Namaste. I hope you enjoy that. And my intention with this restorative sleepy flow is that, you can absolutely, you're going to have your recording, and I hope you get great use out of it. And my intention is that with the timestamps that I supplied with you in your recording link, that you can use this as many practices. So you can use it as you know one or two poses at a time, bigger chunks, or you can do the whole thing again. And particularly with the time of year that we're in, little bite-sized bits of self-care and calm will be very beneficial for your Christmas period and the time leading up to Christmas, and also over the Christmas break. We feel we have all this relaxed time, but often, it needs a little bit of conscious relaxation to really get the best out of your Christmas time. So have a lovely Christmas, and thank you for practicing with me, and I hope to see you again soon.